Hello, everybody. Welcome to my storytelling channel. First of all, I just want to say thank you for following, for subscribing, for sharing, for listening. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Today, I'm here to read the final chapter of Dellana. This story was written a while ago, and I actually had lost the entire story when I was doing some revision, and so I had to rewrite everything. That's why it took a little bit longer to load up the final chapter. But we are here, and this is the final chapter to Dellana. So pull up a chair, relax, and enjoy.
Without love in your heart, without love by your side, without love playing part, tell me what you do.
Dellana. I woke up with a pounding head, and when I looked around me, I realized I recognized the house. It was a place not too far from my own memory, because I used to sit on that couch. And then, round the corner, comes Rick, wearing a jean jacket and black pants, looking as good today as he did the day he broke my heart. But the fear in me heightened, and I pushed myself up, putting as much distance between us as possible. Rick, what are you doing here? I asked. He smiled, a smile that made my stomach feel as if I'd swallowed acid. Dellana, long time no see. How have you been? You look amazing, by the way. I love the hair. If I knew you could become this way, I'd never have left you at the altar. Sorry, by the way. Your sorry is a little too late, Rick. Why am I here? Who are you, really? He sighed, and then Bobby Ray came from around the corner. My eyes almost came out of my head as I put two and two together. The men had a distinct similarity between them, and I couldn't believe I didn't notice it in the first place. Bobby Ray ran a finger down his chin, and then he smiled, a wicked smile that had my blood boiling. I really liked you, he said, but I guess I can't always have what I want. Did you hurt Jason? I asked. Rick narrowed his eyes. That wannabe macho cop? Why? What's he to you? Everything you never will be, I replied. That earned me a slap across the face. I'd never been hit like that before, and I felt as if my cheek melted right off of my face. Tears pricked my eyes, and I had to catch my breath. My cheek went numb, and when I brought my eyes up to look at Rick, he was giving me a dark glare. You try that again, and I'll rip your tongue out. You're not leaving here, and if you do leave, it's because you're dead and heading to the morgue, Rick said. You think you're going to get away with this? You have no idea who you're messing with. Jason will have you on a platter before you can even blink. He laughed, and then his brother joined in on him. Really? He's been chasing a damn ghost for the past 6 years. He is not going to make a break in this case anytime soon. The two left me, and I heard them lock the door from the outside. The house I was in was the same house I'd visited Rick when we were dating. It was the same house he proposed to me. It had always been kind of empty, and now I knew why. If he needed to up and leave, it would be free of his prince. I was only sorry I did not figure it out sooner. Tears filled my eyes as I looked around at the memories that flowed into my mind. This house had been the one I thought I'd share with Rick as I grew old with him. I covered my face with my hands and began to sob. Somewhere between them leaving and me sobbing my eyes out, I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was dark outside, and the lights in the house were turned on, indicating that someone was already inside the house with me. I pushed myself off of the couch and walked into the kitchen, where Rick was standing drinking from a glass cup. He had that same rugged, handsome look on his face as he smiled up at me. Dellana, I gotta hand it to you. I underestimated you, he said. Shut up, I snarled. He laughed. Ooh, new vocabulary words too. My, where was this new woman when I was around? You were never around, Rick. He smiled and set his glass down. He came forward, and I began to back up, my heart kicking up fear. The smile he gave me was eerie. He was the mastermind behind this, after all. He laughed, and then he picked up a strand of my hair and examined it before dropping it down. Do you know what I always liked about you, Dellana? You never bullshit. To be honest, I really wanted you as my wife. I did. I almost showed up that day to the wedding. Hell, I even bought the tux and everything. But marrying you meant I had to give up being the ringleader, and I just couldn't do it. Tears filled my eyes. You mean you didn't love me enough to give it up? He laughed. Yeah, that too. You're smart. No, I'm stupid. I believed you, and I loved you so deeply that I couldn't move on. He put his hand to his heart as if he was injured. Oh, that just makes my day, Dellana. I'm touched, really. Tell me, he said as he walked to sit down on a chair. What is it about this macho cop that made you climb into bed with him? My eyes shot wide open. He laughed and clapped his hands. Did you honestly think you were alone when you were rolling around in the hay with him? You're so evil, I whispered. No, he said seriously as he stood up. He came to me and jabbed a finger at me. I'm not the evil one here. The system failed me, so now I'm going to take the system out. What are you talking about? There were so many ways you could have come to the law, and they could have helped you. He slammed his hand on the table. No, I went to the law, and what did they do? Absolutely nothing. They sent her back to him, and he ended selling her where she was tossed around so many men for pleasure. She ended up taking her own life, and when I found her, she wasn't even recognizable. She? I asked. Who are you talking about? He took several deep breaths. My mother. Who else do you think? Bobby Ray and I, we'd lived with his punches and his kicks growing up. Yeah, he wasn't my real dad, which explained why he was able to torture us so much. But she just couldn't leave him either. And that gives you the right to take women who cross borders to kill? All those women left behind children for men. They deserve to die, he cried. Not one of them will be missed. I felt my throat closed up at his words. How did I miss this when I was dating him? How could I not see this? What does this have to do with me? He laughed as tears filled his eyes. You're seriously asking me that? Look at yourself. You're in love with a man who holds the law. And if he survives the bullet I put into him, you may just get to see him again. That had me seeing red as I stood up and I began slapping him on the shoulders. The anger shot through me, and before I knew it, I picked up a rolling pin and held it in my hands as he removed his gun from his waistband and aimed it at me. Put it down, he warned. I used to love you, but that doesn't mean I can't hurt you. You're such a wicked-hearted man, Rick. How did I ever think I was going to love you for the rest of my life? I wondered. He smiled as he took the rolling pin from me and dropped it on the ground. He came forward and touched my cheek. You don't understand, sweetheart. Everyone who meets me falls in love with me. It's the magic I have. Now, play nice and stop causing me so much trouble. Otherwise, the next time I will aim where the doctors can't save your hero. Jason. Tell me you got something, I said as I walked into the house after being released from the hospital. My brother was sitting on the couch looking over the paperwork sprawled over the table. He had a dazed beard across his face and looked like he hadn't slept at all. I realized that through all this, I hadn't had time to talk to him about proposing to Dellana. I'm racking my brain, yet I see nothing to go on, he said with a deep sigh. He looked up at me. How are you? Are you doing okay? I sat down beside him. I've had worse days. Look, before we go forward, I need to talk to you. He put up his hand. I know. You proposed to her. I watched as he smiled, and then he shook his head. I think she did the right thing by being with you. I wasn't always the right guy. I mean, I didn't even chase her properly. Don't say that. He looked up at me. We're brothers. We fell in love with the same woman. It means the two of us have the same taste. Let's not hate each other for this. I nodded, and he took a paper to put in front of us. I have been looking through your work as you've been healing. I found something you should look into. What is it? I asked. He pointed to a red circle which I had marked. You circled this area because Bobby Ray was caught doing some dirty work here. Along here are tunnels, he said as his fingers followed the train track. Look at this, he said as he pointed to the area around the circle I made. In this neighborhood, all the houses are 500,000 K and up. But there's one home that is close by that is only around 190,000. The residents who built their home all had issues with this home builder. I know because I designed the building across the street. Every single one of those residents sold their home because they were afraid that that one dirty house would bring their value in their home down. And, I asked, not understanding, you're speaking real estate, which I don't get. He tapped on a home nearby. All sold their homes, except this owner. If you were going to commit a crime and wanted to do it where no one suspected you, and the entire $500,000 neighbors left, it would be the perfect place. Holy shit, I said as it finally hit me. How did I miss this? You're a great cop, Jason, but I'm the architect. My heart was hammering inside of me as I sat in the deep woods looking through my binoculars at the house across the street. Connor was right. This house was definitely suspicious, and my stomach was doing flips when all the cars in the driveway were black SUVs. My breath was low as I crouched and remained in position. Connor was on the other side, and my team of black ops surrounded the entire area. I waited until the right moment before I would make my move. The rest would be my backup. I heard movement, and then a black SUV arrived. It parked, and out walked Rick and Bobby Ray, who was holding Dellana by the arm. I was too far to hear what they were saying, but she must have pissed them off because Bobby Ray smacked her across the face, which led to Rick punching him. The three of them walked into the house, and I clenched my teeth. They better pray she had no marks on her body, or else I'd be ripping limbs. I turned on my earpiece and checked my gun. I'm going in, I said quietly. We'll be here, Connor said through my ears. I walked quietly through the woods and found my way at the back door. It was locked, but I could hear shouting and crying from the inside. I heard Dellana scream, and I kicked the door open. I climbed up the stairs and found her on the ground, arms tied behind her back with a bleeding head wound. She saw me and shouted my name. Rick grabbed her as she fought, but the struggle stopped when he took out the knife to her neck. Bobby Ray lay on the ground dead. I take it you're Rick, I said as I lowered my gun. I'm here to talk. He laughed. You're a joke to the police force, Jason. So many years of undercover, and it had to be my girl who found me out. I watched as tears streamed down Dellana's face. I raised my hands, and I knew I had to steady him because if I made one wrong move, he would slice her open in front of me. I saw her fear, and I knew she was trying to hang on. Yeah, I'm a joke. I totally am. I couldn't even figure it out. So why don't you let her go and we can talk? You know, man-to-man kind of thing. He laughed. I don't like talking. It's a waste of time. You thought you had it all figured out, didn't you? But I will always be one step ahead of you. 6 years pretending to be a clown in a neighborhood, and yet you couldn't even understand me. And here comes my girl Dellana, he said as he let the knife prick her skin. I saw her close her eyes from pain, and a drop of blood began trickling down her neck. My girl here does the job well. Anger shot through me as I watched her shut her eyes from pain. You know what, Rick? Can you correct one thing for me? Yeah? What's that? She's not your girl anymore. She's mine. I kicked the table where my gun was, and it flew up. His eyes opened wide, and I caught my gun, tossing it at his head. It snapped his forehead, and he let her go. I cut through the floor and caught her sliding. Then I pushed her across the floor to the opposite end of the room. I turned around and met Rick's foot in my chin. I felt his kick tear tissues in my mouth as I grabbed his leg and twisted it, hearing a break. He yelped and shoved the knife into my shoulder blade. The pain left me crippling my arm as I reached back and retrieved the knife and swung. It cut across his cheek and he toppled over. When he reached for the gun, my Black Ops team broke through the windows and aimed at him to the point where he dropped his knees and raised his arms in surrender. I turned around at the cry of my name and found Dellana walking slowly toward me. As I reached her, I threw my arms around her and held her in me. Her scent engulfed me, and I felt my heart come back to a normal rate. I pulled away and checked her wounds. Are you okay, Della? I asked, breathless. She stifled a sob and wrapped her arms around me. Thank you for that. For what? I asked as she didn't let me go. For saying that I'm your girl. I laughed and pushed her away to cup her face in my hands. You are my girl. You're my Della. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this story of Dellana. I hope that you enjoyed it. I will catch you in the next episode.